everyone, and welcome to the Queen Elizabeth Oval in Bendigo for Grand Final Day 1983. As we say good afternoon to Shane Healy.
Good afternoon, Alan, and very good afternoon, everyone. It's a beautiful day in Bendigo. A magnificent day for the grand final, real springtime Bendigo football finals weather. We saw a great game in the thirds with Golden Square getting home narrowly over Sandhurst in the reserves grand final. In fact, we're waiting a week for the grand final in the reserves. It's preliminary final day today. And South Bendigo have staged a remarkable recovery to come from 8 goals down early in the last quarter to now be trailing by only 8 points approaching time on. The big game, of course, between Sandhurst and Golden Square. Alan, who do you like?
Well, I'm going for Golden Square. I was most impressed in their performance last Sunday when they easily accounted for South Bendigo. South Bendigo 6 weeks ago were one of the firm favourites for the flag, and they went just crumbled under the pressure of Golden Square. If they can come out and produce that sort of game this afternoon, they'll win the big one.
I like Sandhurst. I said many weeks ago I thought Sandhurst were the quickest side in the competition, and I think the conditions here this afternoon are really going to suit the fast running style of the Sandhurst side. We say good afternoon now to Richard Jones, who's going to be with us during the day for expert comments, and also we say good afternoon to our statistician Neville Klein, who's going to be providing us with the update information on both combinations. Good afternoon, Richard.
Good afternoon, Shane, and good afternoon to listeners, viewers to TV8. It promises to be a great grand final this afternoon. Both camps over on the far side of the oval are really keyed up, although I suppose Golden Square's possibly more so than Sandhurst. Dennis O'Hare has deliberately taken a low-key approach to this match, and coming back from the grand final luncheon just down the road from here about an hour ago, we noticed the Sandhurst players trooping out after their motivational film.
It's been a great day, Richard, with the grand final breakfast at the South Bendigo Social Club this morning. We had Alan Killigrew speaking, and what a fine speaker and what a fine motivator he is.
Oh, he was very entertaining, Shane. It's been a very interesting day all round. Of course, it's going to be a very long day too, if we put it like that. I was most impressed with Alan Killigrew, and following on from that, the under-18 grand final between Sandhurst and Golden Square was top-class football. I doubt if anyone who's come from out of the surrounding districts would have seen better quality football than that. That was top class.
Well, we're going to see a magnificent match here. As we mentioned, the day started with the grand final breakfast. We saw the Patches All-Stars. The personality of the year this year is Dr. Wally McGregor of the Northern United Football Club, who did so much work with the Winfield squad this year. And the statewide Rookie of the Year this morning was won by Francis Burke of the South Bendigo Football Club. We'll have some great interviews lined up for this afternoon, of course. The orator himself from South Australia, Alan Killigrew, is one of our special guests. We'll be talking to the Secretary of the Victorian Country Football League, Graham Arthur, and also Ian Collins, the General Manager of the Carlton Football Club, and he'll be reflecting on how that particular side went in season 1983 and what they're planning to do over the summer. How do you see the ground at this stage, Richard?
Well, it looks in top condition, Alan. I don't suppose you could wish for a better ground in country Victoria. I mean, as we look across the ground now and see that magnificent historic grandstand and the quality of the oval, it's in top condition. The oval's in fine shape. There's a huge crowd here and there's plenty of entertainment lined up.
Well, all the action's in the dressing rooms at the moment as the coaches have the big job of motivating their sides. Let's go down to the Sandhurst rooms and see what's happening inside there at the moment. There's the boys, Dennis O'Hare, standing amongst them. Doing a little bit of exercise and actually motivating the boys to come forward with the one big game, the 1st of October 1983 grand final day. Certainly a big scene, and let's have a look at how Dennis O'Hare sees this afternoon's grand final. Well, Dennis, the big one coming up, and how do you feel prior to a grand final?
Well, if I was nervous yesterday, Alan, I'm even more nervous today.
This is your first grand final with the Bendigo Football League?
No, I played in the 1978 Sandhurst side and the 1981 Sandhurst Premiership sides, but my first as a coach.
How's the feeling at the start of the year? Did you think you'd be playing in the grand final in October?
You can't make those sort of predictions anymore in football, and this year was a new season, 22 games. I had my sights set on a finals berth, and the way we progress through to the grand final has been a real bonus, I think.
There's been a big build-up for Sandhurst during the week from the coach, the president, right through the committee. The boys pretty confident?
Yes, in a quiet, unassuming sort of way, I suppose you'd say they're confident. They know that the job has to be done, or else, as I said, the the bonus of getting to the grand final will prove to be a huge disappointment for us.
How tough it is on a couple of the younger players in the Sandhurst lineup in the first 10 minutes of a grand final?
It's really a matter of whether they can get a clean possession early. If they get a clean possession early, I think the nerves go away. Whether you're young, old or indifferent, the pressures are the same.
Using the QEO all the year as your home ground, is it a big advantage for today's final?
I don't think so. We only ever get half the ground to train on. South Bendigo have the other half. A lot of people don't realise that. The advantage might come from only having half the ground to train on, because you then learn to use the space better. But there's certainly no home ground advantage per se, I don't think, about the QER.
Are there any particular players in the Sandhurst lineup who've had a lot of experience in Bendigo football who will be looking for leadership today? Michael Lenigan, obviously, who's a fantastic player, and Bill Nola, who's also a great player and deserved every vote he got in the Mickelson medal. All right, well, good luck, and let's hope you have the flag at 5 o'clock.
Thanks, Alan.
Sandhurst coach Dennis O'Hare quietly optimistic about his chances in the BFL Grand Final at the Queen Elizabeth Oval in Bendigo this afternoon. There's the scene, and let's have a look at the Golden Square rooms now as the boys warm up for the big one this afternoon, and let's talk to their coach, Peter Crosley. Okay, Golden Square, the boys just motivating themselves and out on the ground at the moment. Big Bendy is moving around, the band is out there, and it's a good scene, but there's the boys very, very keen, Golden Square, to do well in this big one this afternoon. Well, just a few weeks ago, people said it was all Sandhurst, but after seeing them last Sunday, Richard Jones, your thoughts, Golden Square?
Well, Golden Square, of course, would have to be well in this match, Alan. Anyone who gets to a grand final and has got such a proud tradition behind them as Golden Square has got to be a big chance. There's Porky Rodder and a few of the boys warming up. Mal Cowling, number 27 is, of course, Terry Blorfers, half-forward flanker, great goal kicker.
Right, well, let's cross down to the Golden Square. We see the boys warming up, and their coach is Peter Crosley. Peter, grand final day, and how much pressure is on you personally for today's match?
I don't think there's all that much pressure. I think there's pressure on everybody in the club. Grand final days are just like any other day until 5 o'clock, and then you realise that it's all been worthwhile, or it's been another disastrous year.
The players get tremendously built up. Do the coaches, the president through the committee get the same build-up?
I think everybody has the same build-up. Obviously you can't build up the players too early or too much. The build-up has to be over the whole week and then throughout the whole game.
Are there many younger players in today's lineup who will perhaps feel the pressure in the first 10 minutes or so?
I'm sure they'll feel some pressure, but it was always our idea that last year was to give them a grounding in finals.
You're looking for any particular player to really show the way today?
I think it has to start with the captain, assistant coach, and perhaps with their more experienced players like Charger and Porky Rodder.
A little bit of rain on the ground Tuesday night. It's going to make the ground in perfect condition for today's game then?
Yeah, it was a little bit slippery the night we trained, but taking that forward, it should be excellent later on today.
What sort of build-up have you given these players during the week? Have you trained most nights?
We trained the 5 nights, obviously not always with the balls. The first night was just at the gym, and 4 very light nights using the footies.
A lot of pressure on the bench today, Peter?
I don't think so. The match probably won't be decided from the bench. The match has been decided over the last 8 months.
All right then, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Peter Crosley, the coach of Golden Square, and there's the scene, a big crowd arriving here at the QEO for the big one. Of course, we see the Highland Band, Big Bendy, who's making his appearance here this afternoon prior to going to Bathurst later on tonight to welcome the Bendigo car onto the grid for the big one. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll be back at the QEO after this break.
Patches Canvas now manufacture blinds and awnings in Bendigo. They've brought their many years of experience from their Patches Melbourne branch and will be pleased to measure and quote, recloth and fit, canvas, aluminium or fireproof awnings, plus Holland blinds. Patches blinds and awnings are available in a range of fashion colours, with quality fittings, professional advice and factory-to-you prices. For a free measure and quote, phone Patches Canvas Manufacturing now. Remember, they'll make it or patch it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Welcome to the premiere of a great new soft drink, the premiere of Diet Coke.
Introducing Diet Coke. You're gonna drink it just for the taste of it. Living good with Diet Coke. This is the one from Coca-Cola. We're gonna taste with just 1 calorie. Just for the taste of it. Diet Coke.
The Bendigo Jockey Club presents one of the top days on the racing calendar, the 1983 Winfield Cup meeting on Monday, October 3rd. This is a full TAB meeting featuring the running of the $12,000 Winfield Cup over 1,600 metres. Punters will enjoy tote facilities on Bendigo, Adelaide and Sydney races, and closed circuit television will provide a live telecast of all Metropolitan Day Sydney races. Be at the Bendigo Jockey Club's big Winfield Cup meeting, Monday, October 3rd.
Have you registered yet to play cricket this summer? Golden City Indoor Cricket Centre will take registrations for the coming summer competitions from Monday the 3rd of October until Friday the 7th, so get in early to avoid disappointment. Plus you can book at the centre for regular club practice, sessions for both men and women, or book your social club or school in. You can even get professional coaching by qualified Victorian Association coaches. Don't you or your club miss out on cricket this summer. Registrations are open from October 3 to 7 at the Golden City Indoor Cricket Centre.
Welcome back to the Queen Elizabeth Oval on Grand Final Day 1983. The under-18 final this afternoon, Golden Square 11-16 defeated Sandhurst 10-13, and the preliminary final of the reserve saw Kangaroo Flat 13-6, scraping against South Bendigo 11-10. Well, there's some of the glamour and attraction on the QEO this afternoon, the Vega girls from Bendigo. Shane, very nice.
Very nice indeed, Alan. I think now might be a good chance to perhaps let the viewers know a little bit about the two sides. Of course, many people here, but many watching at home who perhaps haven't seen Bendigo football before. The Queen Elizabeth Oval here, I would say, would be one of the biggest grounds, apart from VFL Park, in the state. It's an enormous ground with very deep pockets. The breeze is blowing, for those people who know the ground, to the city end, and kicking into the breeze, you're also kicking into the sun at the Barnard Street end of the ground, and I'd estimate the breeze to be worth about 2 or 3 goals. Now, this ground, of course, is shared by the Sandhurst Club, who is playing here today, the Dragons. They wear the maroon and blue colours, and the South Bendigo Club, which just lost the reserves preliminary final and were defeated by Golden Square in the Bendigo Football League preliminary final last Sunday. Golden Square wear blue and gold colours, and they're known as the Bulldogs. And Richard, Golden Square have played now, after today, in 12 of the last 14 grand finals. It's a magnificent effort, and their centre-half back, who may be playing at fullback today, Peter Davey, is playing today in his 10th grand final for the Blue and Golds. That's a magnificent record.
Yes, he's a great player, Charger, and of course he's been, as you say, in so many grand finals for Golden Square, and is a great club man, Peter Davey. He seldom plays a bad game, and I thought his effort last week in holding a big full forward Des Charles from South Bendigo to 2 goals was a top effort, and one of the reasons why Golden Square won so convincingly.
The last time these two sides met in a grand final was 1979, and Golden Square won easily on that occasion. But the 2 years previous, 1977 and 78, they met here at the QEO, and Sandhurst were victorious on both those occasions, once narrowly and once comfortably. So they really are arch rivals in the competition. And I think as the years panned out, Richard, they have proven themselves as the most 2 talented sides in the league.
Oh, I'd have to agree with that, Shane, certainly. In 1978, of course, if we recall, it was Dennis Lenigan, who's now with the Geelong club in the VFL, who sparked that tremendous revival by Sandhurst in the last quarter. Together with his brother Michael, who's the assistant coach and captain of the current Sandhurst side. And Sandhurst won a thriller, one of the best grand finals that I've seen in the years I've been in Bendigo. They won by 3 points that day.
Sandhurst kicked 11 goals, 1 in the first quarter that day, didn't they, Richard?
Yes, some incredible amount like that. The previous year, of course, 1977, was when Ron Best, the great full forward now with Northern United, coached Sandhurst, and they had a team of very young players. Some of the players who were in today's team were just in their first year from the seniors that year up from the under-18s. Gary Curran was one, Mick Lenigan was another, and Ron Best got Sandhurst to the flag that year in 77, one of his greatest achievements in football, he always maintains.
I think a few of the players that the viewers should be looking out for the Sandhurst side this afternoon would be their big ruckman, number 3, Billy Nalder, their captain, Michael Lenigan, who would, I would say without doubt, be the most skillful and talented player on the ground. Their centreman, number 11, Frankie Coghlan, is a terrific ball getter, a terrific ball disposer, and a very talented ball handler. He's a thinker, Coghlan, and he'll play in the centre this afternoon, possibly against Greg Williams, number 6 for the Blue and Gold Golden Square side. And Greg Williams during the week, of course, won his second Mickelson medal at the age of 19. In fact, he turned 20 yesterday. He was 17 3 years ago and he ran third in the Mickelson medal. He was 18 last year and he won it. And he was 19 this year and he won it. So, in fact, he's been in the top 3 the last 3 years as a teenager. And that, Alan, in a major league is a phenomenal effort, isn't it?
Yes, I'd say Greg Williams has got a great chance of playing for Carlton next year, actually, and I'm sure that the Carlton people who are here today will have another good look, because Greg went down there last summer. Perhaps he just wasn't right at the time. He had a go and he came home. But I think that Greg Williams is now a lot more accomplished and determined footballer. If he puts in the work over the summer and dedicates himself, I'm sure that Greg Williams will line up in a Carlton Guernsey next winter.
Another tip, of course, Alan, would be Peter Dean, the South Bendigo star. There's a big word around that Carlton are very interested in Peter Dean, who got the team knocked out in last week's preliminary final. And, of course, Mick Gallagher, who absolutely dominated in that under-18 grand final for Golden Square. Mick Gallagher was the difference between the two teams, in my opinion, in a fine exhibition of football. But he's another candidate for the Carlton Guernsey.
Yes, I know there's Carlton people here. It'll be interesting to note who's sitting in the grandstand up there from other VFL clubs, considering the future of zoning.
Well, certainly, and Alan Killigrew had a few words to say, and I believe you might be talking to him about that a little bit later in the day, Alan, if we get time.
Yes, Alan Killigrew's got his own thoughts about young boys going down from the country and trying out in the VFL, and I believe Alan is going to give us a little bit of talk on what he thinks about it, because he thinks they should become bush champions first.
He doesn't mince his words either, does he, the old Alan?
He was a terrific coach with St Kilda in the old days, and now I believe he's with Brighton in the South Australian Amateur League, and he's certainly going to enjoy his day at the Bendigo football this afternoon.
Well, the Board of Management is to be congratulated. The sight here before this grand final is something really right out of the box. We've got the Harden Band on the oval, we've had the Vigor Girls, we've got the banners, we've got an enormous crowd. I'd say probably one of the best grand final crowds in Bendigo for a decade. Of course, the day is ready-made. I was running through a few of the players that might be worth watching out for. A couple of the Golden Square players to keep an eye on. They're very talented wingmen in number 11, Mal Cowling. They're big ruckmen, 2 of them. 26 Ross Adlam and 21 Alan Patterson, and also that time-honoured champ playing in his 10th grand final, number 46 Peter Davey. But without doubt, without doubt, the one to watch for Golden Square is number 6 Greg Williams, a real champion.
Well, as the band gradually moves from the arena, we'll be standing by now for the presentation of the medals. The medals in the Bendigo Football League for the seniors are the Mickelson medal. In the under-18s, it's the Simons medal, and for the reserves competition, it's the McDonald medal, and certainly some great recipients are going to take these medals today.
Well, that boy who won it in the under-18s, Alan, young Trethowan from Castlemaine, polled 48 votes and won by 24, a phenomenal performance, and of course the Mickelson went to Greg Williams, and as we've just been saying, what a great player he is.
The reserves medal went to South Bendigo's captain coach in that grade, Barry Hayes.
Right, let's introduce now from the Bendigo Football League Board of Management, their executive, Robert Cook, for the presentation of the medals.
Back to the presentation, and I now have much pleasure in asking Greg Williams if he would come forward and accept the Mickelson medal on behalf of the Bendigo Football League for the 1983 win. Greg Williams.
Just present it, Greg. Just present it. Just present it, that's all. No speaking. Greg, thanks, man. Congratulations. Lap of honour. Hope to be on the moon.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Greg. I know you've got a very important duty to perform today. The winner of the McDonald medal for the reserves 18 goes to Barry Hayes. Barry. Present it, Bill. And the winner of the third 18 with a magnificent polling votes of 48 votes, Lee Trethowan, wins the George Simons medal.
Well done, Lee. Great stuff, mate. There we are. Well won.
Barry Hayes and Lee Trethowan will now do a lap of honour. Thank you. Can we have everyone off the ground now, please? The teams are about to enter.
Very much, Robert, and that's the medal presentations over for 1983, and of course Greg Williams, he looks a little bit nervous out there at the moment, James.
Well, it's not to be too surprised about that, Al. He's a great footballer. He's playing now in his second grand final in a row. His side were thrashed by Eagle Hawk on this ground this time last year. The Borough went on to a most convincing grand final win. In fact, our last two grand finals have been very one-sided. Sandhurst beating Castlemaine in 1981 by over 10 goals, and last year Eagle Hawk was one of the most impressive grand final wins I can remember, gave Golden Square a real thrashing. I'm sure that'll be in the minds of those blue and gold boys, Richard, and Peter Crosley certainly doesn't like going down 2 years in a row, and I'm sure it'll be really something they'll be aiming to forget quickly as they can today.
I'm sure they will, Shane. Peter Crosley's got a fine coaching record, of course, having started off here in 1977. There go the boys on the lap of honour. Lee Trethowan, by the way, is a player of the future. A great player with Castlemaine, Lee. His father Brian's in the coaching job down at Castlemaine as the Dragons burst out through the banner. First team onto the ground in the grand final. And talking about centre-men, I noticed when I was over in the rooms about just before 2 o'clock, Coach Dennis O'Hare deep in conversation with centreman Frankie Coughlin, who was on the rubbing down table, and obviously giving him a few last-minute tips on what to do with Greg, or how to play on Greg Williams.
There's the lineup as we see it on the screen, as Sandhurst will probably line up. There may be some last-minute changes, but the Sandhurst boys weren't supposed to come out for another few minutes. They're obviously very, very keen, and they wanted to get out on the ground and have a good warm-up.
Richard, I can't see McAvale playing on a wing, and I certainly can't see Gooch playing on a wing. I'd imagine those two half-forward flankers in Stephen Road and young Kevin Walsh will probably move up to the wings, and I wouldn't be surprised to see McAvale perhaps go to the bench, and don't be surprised to see Greg Hull start in the 18. What do you think about that centre line as it looks at the moment?
Well, that's very dicey, Shane. I quite agree. I expect to see Stephen Rose selected this morning in the Patches All-Star team on the ground. There's Golden Square through the banner, led by big Percy Adlam, the skipper. He's trying to get rid of the banners as he came through there. Percy, of course, has a big task today playing in the first ruck against Big Bill Nolder. One thing I must have mentioned when I was in the Sandhurst rooms, there was about 3 or 4 extra players apart from the 20, not only in the Guernseys and the socks and shorts ready for the game, but already rubbed down. So I don't know whether we'll have to try and see just how many Sandhurst have got out on the field.
And here come the umpires onto the ground now, Richard, and certainly a great thrill for two of the most promising umpires in Central Victoria.
Yes, Rod Threlfall, observed by a VFL umpires advisor, Clive Philp, not Clive Philp, his name's Philp, I forget his first name just offhand, but he was observed by that particular gentleman during the season and was given the nod as being capable of umpiring VFL reserve grade. The other umpire is Warren Wigmore, 23, very popular figure in Bendigo football, Wiggy, and he's got a big task, of course, with Rod Threlfall today. They're going to do their warm-up lap now as they go.
Well, Warren's the blonde-headed laddie, and the darker one is, of course, Rod Threlfall. Wish them both. They're only 23, 24 years of age, and they've got a great job. And, of course, this is great history-making event for the Bendigo Umpires Association. In past years, of course, the VFL have supplied the umpiring panel for this traditional day. But, of course, we've seen the introduction through the new Board of Management, passing down, giving the local people a go, and the Bendigo Umpires Association have officiated in all games in the Bendigo League this year, and they've done so with pride. And Richard, they must be commended on the effort they've put into the umpiring here in Central Victoria this year.
Yeah, very professional body, the Bendigo Umpires Association, under the leadership of Ashley Donaldson, the president, and their advisor Paul McCaskill. They take the task very seriously, and I think viewers will notice today how efficient not only the central umpires will be, but the goal umpires. The goal umpires march in unison off the ground at the breaks. They're very, very professional in their approach, and they're probably the best umpiring and best equipped umpiring body outside Melbourne.
Well, this ground in magnificent order, and Richard, I'd like to get a comment from you regarding the goal-scoring end of the QEO today, because in the reserves and in the thirds, it appeared the Barnard Street end was producing a lot of goals, although they're kicking against the breeze.
Yes, that's often a strange phenomenon on the QEO, Alan. Quite frequently during the season and in past seasons, we've seen that even though the wind favours the city end goals, players seem to get an extra spurt on knowing that, and more goals are scored the Barnard Street end. We won't know, of course, for the first 10 or 15 minutes to see how the thing pans out.
I'd imagine both sides at the moment would be suffering rather greatly from nerves and plenty of adrenaline pumping, Alan.
My word, there's been a terrific build-up to this match, and well, Golden Square, they were very disappointed a fortnight ago when they were thrashed by Sandhurst, and they came out last week and they were a great new side, and I think that the key to this game is going to be the players on the ball. Now, if Adlam and Patterson and also Johnny Williams can take Big Bill Nolder, who's going to be on his own in the ruck there for Sandhurst today, if they can take him apart, well, it's certainly going to be an interesting match, because Adlam and Patterson dominated dominated the game against South Bendigo, and I think that they actually won the game for Golden Square last weekend.
I think you might see that big Gary Kerwin, number 41 for Sandhurst, does a fair amount of ruck work for Sandhurst, Alan, when the ball's in the forward line for the Dragons. Gary Kerwin missed the preliminary final last week. He had an ulcer or a boil on his foot and was not able to play. We will be watching with interest, of course, to see where exactly he does line up, because he's selected in the forward pocket, but he's played a lot of the year at centre-half forward. He has the height. He was a ruckman, of course, for many years with Sandhurst, and he has the height to combat the tall timber from Golden Square when the ball does get into that forward line for the Dragons.
Well, the big player for Sandhurst, of course, is Billy Nolder, and viewers right throughout our central Victorian area would know Billy, because he's played a lot of football with a lot of clubs, and I believe originally he comes from up at the Lalbert area in the wheat-growing country around Swan Hill. So Billy's had a colourful career in country football around central and northern Victoria, and maybe this could be his last grand final.
Wouldn't surprise me. He's certainly, your comment about Adlam and Patterson, Alan, the way they dominated the preliminary final last week holds true, but no more true than the fact that Nelda dominated the second semi-final against those two very same players, and Golden Square are obviously going to be looking for a lift from those two players. We mentioned Kerwin was back into the side after missing the second semi through injury. Young Paul Bow is in the same boat, the little rover, first rover for Sandhurst. He missed that game through injury too, so there could be a couple of fitness worries with the Sandhurst side. And Johnny Williams comes back into the side. He's ruck roving for the Square today. He comes back in after missing the preliminary final through suspension. So I think both sides just about at full strength.
Richard, how do you see the role of Johnny Williams today?
Well, that's going to be interesting. The word during the week was, Alan and Shane, that John Williams would be playing in the first ruck and boring straight in on the opposing trio facing him at the centre bounce. Now, what exactly Coach Crosley and the Brains Trust for Sandhurst have got in mind, for Golden Square have got in mind for big Johnny Williams, we won't know, will we, for the next until the next couple of minutes have elapsed, and we've seen just exactly where he lines up and what he does.
We'll be watching carefully the interchange bench too, Richard, because I've got a feeling there could be a couple of red herrings in that Sandhurst selection, as I mentioned to you, and we'll keep our eyes very carefully on the two players who trot over to the interchange bench with Dennis O'Hare, because I think the 18 that Sandhurst start with could be a very, very important decision whether in fact they play young Hole on the ball. He's an experienced grand final player, and he'll certainly give the Dragons a lift around that forward line. Of course, a lot of these players from both sides are playing in their first grand final, and there'll be plenty of early nerves in this first 15 minutes where, of course, a game can often be won or lost.
Statistician Neville Klein's just told us, Shane, that he's checked through the Sandhurst team. There are only 20 players there, so that must have been some sort of a blind by them in the rooms. I don't quite know what it was for, but there were certainly 22 players in, 23 players actually in jumpers and all talked up ready.
Richard, how important will the toss be for this grand final?
Well, it could be crucial, Alan, in the initial stages. The Sandhurst believe they've got to get away early and start much more constructively than they did in the second semi-final a fortnight ago against this same Golden Square team. Now, here they are going towards the centre there. Now, there's Kent Ward there in the centre of the ground with Mick Lenigan. Kent Ward is the small, dark-headed player near the two central umpires coming out towards us here, number 43, and now he's in the centre square. He was originally picked in the forward pocket. Now, there's Mark McAvale's down on the half-forward line. And Kevin Walsh is coming out here on the wing, looks like, Shane, as we thought. He's going to pick up Malcolm the Falcon Cowling, number 11 for Golden Square.
Now, what you'll find, I think, is that Ward is taking the first roving role, and that Paul Bow will go to be second rover. We'll just pick that up in a moment for you. Greg Hull is on the field. Paul Bow may be the player